rooms, a lot of enthusiasm. And then, of course, we contribute 3.42 to the GDP of the country, and nearly 25% of the foreign currency is earned by tourism in Nepal. So at this situation, as you know, we are in a very, very difficult time. One tourist directly or supports directly or indirectly to 12 employees, in Nepal. So when there is a full stop of tourists coming into Nepal, you can understand what challenges we are going to face. However, the lockdown decision of the government is also very much supported by us, because that was the right thing to do. It was done at the right time, so we have to support. Now, we were enthusiastic, like you said, like 2020 being the Visit Nepal year, a lot of advertisement, a lot of identification of the products were happening in Nepal. So, all that enthusiasm is definitely crushed. But then, like you said, do I see a light at the end of the tunnel? Yes, I do. Because probably this is the time, once things start settling in, what can we do? We can start working on capacity building. We can start analyzing, evaluating all the strength and the gaps that Nepal had. Earlier, we were very popular with the 3 golden triangles and the trekking. And now with the Visit Nepal Year campaign, we've identified many exciting products. So for that, instead of just getting excited with the...
I'm so sorry.
So instead of just getting excited with the products, there's a lot of homework that we can do, is to really get into the research, to identify the products, to look into the connectivity, working on the standardization of the accommodation, marketing, food safety, garbage management, various things. So sometimes I feel there is an opportunity, because when they always say when it actually takes the dip, it is bound to come up again. This has always been, a study in the past, that when things take a dip, it has to come up. So what I feel is maybe this is the time for us to do work on capacity building, that when we are actually ready, maybe we will be 10 times better. Maybe we will be able to cater to different kind of tourism. Maybe we will be known as a destination with so many products, and a safe destination. So, we could work on that. So these are the way to be optimistic about the whole thing. This is what I feel. This is what I have also been briefing the minister, to say when things get a little bit, calmer and favorable for us to, work on these lines, maybe that is what we should do. But then, of course, the current situation, like I mentioned earlier, also is about this. It's about the situation. In this situation, the government has to make sure that the citizens are confident that they can get the supply of the food and medicine. This is one. And of course, for the business, be it tourism or any other business, there are 2 factors: is how the government is going to support the employers and the employee. The employer, many countries have come up with various packages. Maybe we are not in a situation, maybe the government in Nepal is not in a situation to give us that much, but then, they have to work. Things are getting late. They have announced few of, about 25% of what we had suggested, but that is definitely not enough. They have to do some study on what the neighboring countries have done to support their, support the tourism industry. And looking at all that, I think an immediate package has to come out to look into the moratorium support for the employers. And as for the employees, of course, the salary is equally important. So for 1 month, of course, everybody has said that we have to support the situation, but from the second month, it has to be the government who has to come forward to help. And in my opinion, I think 2019 is a year where we will not be seeing any tourism. But then for the 2020, we could be ready. So this is what I want to tell you is, it's not everything is, there's always reason for everything. The world is going through crisis, which none of us were prepared. But all we can do is to go with the flow, take each day as it comes and see how we can be ready when the time is right to strike back. Because countries like us, there's only one thing one of the most important things that we can be proud of is the tourism and the beauty of the country that we have. We have so much to offer. So, we must be confident and move forward.
Thank you. Thank you, Srijana Rana. The capacity building and resilience, since resilience has been synonyms to Nepal. Nepal has seen a lot of setbacks in tourism, starting from 1999, December 24th, the hijack of Indian airline plane, followed by Royal Massacre, 9/11, Maoist insurgency, and 5 years ago, the earthquake. So Nepal, or the tourism of Nepal, has seen all these ups and downs. And what we have noticed, that Nepal is a quick recovery destination, and people would not give in very easily. So we'll come back to you. Now, since the word you used, crisis, and you did see the light at the end of the tunnel, now let me move on to John. John was recently based out in China. And interestingly, this COVID also started from Wuhan. But here I'm not talking about COVID, I'm talking about crisis. I read somewhere that in Chinese, word crisis is composed of two characters. One represents danger and the other one represents opportunity. So John, how do you take this COVID crisis, whether it's real danger or there's abundance of opportunity?
Well, thank you, Pankaj. It's great to see you, and it's great to see all the panelists. And I want to say hello to all of our attendees, not only from Nepal, but throughout the world. Namaste, great to see you. As you know, and you've mentioned, I've been teaching for Arizona State University in Hainan, China. And so to give you perspective, Nepal gets maybe a little over 1 million visitors per year, but Hainan, China gets 70 million domestic tourists a year. Wow. So it's a very, very popular destination there, a great place to study tourism, particularly Chinese tourism. So if I want to start off on a positive note, we've seen the measures that China has taken, and literally shutting down 1 billion people basically for 2 months. But now I'm in the United States. I'm teaching my students online, but life is getting back to normal there fairly quickly. So tonight, some of my colleagues were out at a night market, and they were eating. They were very happy to be having a beer outside and be with people again. So I think that's a very positive look at things, that if a country of that size can address the problem and then rectify it, and that hopefully we'll see our top of our bell curve now, and hopefully that will get a bit better. The second thing that I wanted to bring up, Pankaj, and you brought it up at the very beginning, is that 2 years ago in Nepal, we had the International Conference on Accessible Adventure. And so what we wanted to do was sort of bring in sort of a new image, new brand image for Nepal, that it wasn't just for the young and adventurous, but there were a lot of other attributes for the country. So I'm glad you brought that up, because it's one of my recommendations, is that there are a lot of new niche markets out there that we need to address, look for the blue ocean strategy of looking for the new markets, and start talking to them now. So when things get better, that you have that dialogue, they're starting to explore more. We were looking at the senior market. We were looking at the accessible but disabled market, a huge market in the world, about 1 billion people. So there are new markets to start talking to start really promoting to. And I think, as Srijana said, this is a time for capacity building. It's a time to keep the dialogues going. So what I wanted to do with my presentation today I'm teaching tourism planning. I've got about 100 students, and let me share a screen here. So basically, my challenge to the students over this week was to go to the UN World Tourism Organization site, and they have a challenge here to address the COVID crisis. And the challenge was, look at called Healing Solutions Tourism Challenge, and they're challenging basically, they're challenging the world to come up with solutions on addressing the resilience and recovery for the COVID crisis, the health crisis. And again, they're calling on innovators to look at 3 different categories. And basically, that would be in health. Here are the 3 categories. Healing for people, kind of focusing on safety measures, sanitation methods, early detection for the stakeholders, the employees, the tourists, tour operators. The second category was healing for prosperity, and that was looking at kind of the business economy. What can we do to help the business economy recover? And the third category was looking at healing for destinations, looking at solutions for recovery techniques, communication crisis management, branding, and travel confidence. So we worked with the students over the last couple of days, and I've focused and summarized all of our discussion and comments just to sort of get some ideas generated for our panel here and our audience. So looking at the first category, healing for people and safety strategy, here are a few of the recommendations that have been brought up and that we discussed. Number 1, airports and borders are going to be very, very important. We're going to have to look at and really work at having a professional presentation at each airport. Again, we had horrible problems in the US initially with 4-hour waits coming in from Europe when they were starting to stop the European flights. That can't happen. The airport is the first experience that a visitor has. And so again, we're going to have to, as the health crisis winds down, there's still going to be a good opportunity here for screening. So again, we should be working on how can we professionally, unobtrusively screen at the airport. We should screen our outbound passengers as well. And one of the suggestions was the foreigners that are coming in when they're at immigration, they should get a contact card that will have all the required sort of information, phone numbers, websites, in an app to really for connectivity to sort of give them confidence that there is a background of support there. We talked about airlines. Initially, airlines maybe should institute a no middle seat policy. Again, who's ever traveled in the last couple of years, there's never a free seat on any airplane. That might have to change as a transition. Just give a little bit more space there. I think that would be kind of important. Again, on airplanes, they should have a health and safety educational video. They should hand out masks if people don't have them. Destinations should look at having a smartphone app with a tourism-oriented health and safety updates, contact numbers. They might even think of subsidizing SIM cards for cell phones so people can have connectivity. The sectors of tourism, the lodging, F&B, transport, and attractions should, again, they're going to have to evolve into a carrying capacity of maybe of 30 or 40% until things get better, and then be able to constantly add. There should be sanitation stations everywhere. Talking about employees, again, relating this to the healing and health, there should be daily health checks for tourism employees. The employees should be educated on health concerns, be able to be observers out there, and employees should be properly protected when necessary. Again, tourists should be monitored at various entry points, again, to really sort of keep that new influx in check if that appears to happen. Food service, one of the recommendations was maybe limit buffet presentations. Table seating should include more spacing. There should be more room service, boxed meals. Looking at putting together your tour packages. Again, group size initially should be limited. Again, think of the 40 pax bus. In the interim, maybe the 20 pax bus filling the 40 seat bus is probably the most kind of important way of addressing the evolution. Again, we're going to start off slow and we're going to build back to normal capacity. Now, talking about the second challenge from the UNWTO on the healing for prosperity, that's kind of focused on an economic strategy. Again, as I looked at a lot of websites out there, there were very few from the tour operators that really had decent update of current government and company policy. It was just kind of the old website there. That has to change. You have to have a message of what is going on, and people will respect that. It might not be positive. It might be, it might be about the quarantine, but they will have a lot of more respect for you and your company if you are giving them up-to-date type of information. Companies right now should be using Zoom and Skype to engage with people throughout your country, the government and the stakeholders, but you should be reaching out to your suppliers, talking to them about strategy. Your suppliers out there in each of the different source markets, they're the ones that are going to have the tune on when travel is going to be opening up. So that should be a daily or at least a weekly conversation with your suppliers on what you should be doing to prepare and who they should be starting to address their marketing. I really think that mass tourism is going to be slow in coming back, but that doesn't really matter for Nepal. You're worried about niche markets, and that's why I related the niche market for accessible adventure, but those will be the first to recover. So again, look at smaller groups, focus on healthy lifestyle, spiritual awakening, escape from the urban living, rural culture, adventure isolation. These are things that Nepal and the Himalaya destinations really have a strength in. So I think you will be able to have that attractability there. Companies should look at their canceled bookings and start that dialogue with the people who had canceled because of the health crisis. Get them engaged and get them excited to rebook as things come out. Look at your loyal customers. Who are the ones that you've had repeat visits to? Get that dialogue going. Encourage them to talk about your country. Encourage them to talk about your company as well. Again, you have to have that continual conversation on what the entry restrictions are. And the key focus is airline capacity. So you really have to stay on board with your NTB and your National Tourism Bureau and the DMO on which airlines are going to be coming back and which source markets. And that's where your immediate type of marketing should be. Obviously, you've got to take care of your value chain. There are a lot of people that work as independent contractors for you, your guides, your Sherpa, your drivers, do whatever you can to help them. Again, a lot of companies are starting this GoFundMe account. So people who really love your company and love your country can contribute money, which you can help disperse. And again, some other ideas of emergency management, having local systems and connectivity. You might want to think about mergers and partnerships now. Look at similar types of complementary companies, and you might want to think about merging and so you could stay strong through this part and become kind of have a different product to sell in a bigger market. And again, I think lastly, we're looking at kind of a value-based strategy, as you don't want to return with discounting everything, but you want to add value, which would be add-ons, upgrades, small group sizes, one night free. Okay. So these are some of the value-based strategies rather than strict discounting, which would be very important. Okay, I know I'm very close on time here, Pankaj, so I will quickly finish up some of the suggestions for healing for destinations. Again, this is a whole of government engagement. Government should think of maybe appointing a tourism recovery lead, like the lead czar, who's maybe outside of the NTB, who really is the one that NTB says, we need this done, and they take care of making it, pushing it through the government. Again, communication is key. We think that putting together an app specifically for new visitation that really has particularly a lot of the health connectivity there. We talked about, Sujana talked about the business support and being able to support employees and the companies. In the future, you might have a different level of certification on when certain companies and attractions are certified that they're meeting a certain health level. We talked about the marketing to niche markets. The air seat recovery, it should really be a huge focal point for destinations. We need lift, we need seats, and whatever those origins start first should be a focal point for marketing. Then start thinking about a new destination video to rebrand yourself to individual and free, focused on these niche markets. Events, you'll have to sort of pare down to smaller events, but maybe some that have big broadcast ability there. Traveler incentives, coupons are very important. Free transportation, free medical insurance are some of the ideas floated out there. And I'll just finish up here. Sorry for going a little late, Pankaj, but again, you should be working with social media influencers. Get some of the really kind of wild adventure social media guys out there shooting video, talking about how things are there. And these can be your ambassadors and going back. And then lastly, governments should really be working closely with development organizations, World Bank, UNWTO, USAID, AusAid. Look at their economic recovery programs. They usually have a lot of funding for things such as this. So Pankaj, sorry for running late.
Very comprehensive.
You can't ask a professor to give only 5 minutes. I'm sorry.
That's not really a correct time for you. I know you can go really long, and I've seen you. Thank you, John. I particularly loved your healing for people, healing for prosperity, and healing for destination. Very well summed up. Now, we'll have few questions which are already going in the chat room. So John, you'll have to again answer. Before that, I'll move on to Thomas. By sector, airlines and cruise ships are the most impacted ones as per WTTC. And it also has warned that this pandemic could cut up to 50 million jobs worldwide in travel and tourism industry. Though John's recommendation was very particular and very descriptive, you, having started as a travel agent and now running the travel news publications, what are your takes or what are your suggestions to travel trade industry to stay afloat? Thomas.
I'm sorry, I had to unmute me. I didn't realize I was talking to myself. Okay. Well, I think that's $1 million question, Pankaj, but I don't think the industry is ready to really, not yet in the recovery mode, but it's time to start thinking about it. And I really enjoyed the feedback we got so far in this panel. It was very educational, and it is definitely something we need to start thinking about it once we get through the mode of recovery. But it doesn't hurt, I guess, talking about it. The airline industry, I don't think will be the same for some time to come as we just know it a few weeks ago. If you look at large carriers like Etihad, Turkish Airlines, some of these guys, they're pretty much down to their knees. And it depends, I think, for the most part, on government assistance to keep these airlines afloat, at least for the first part. That aviation is necessary and it's coming back. I think we all know this, but it'll take time and it takes money to build this up. The mass tourism market, I also believe will not immediately emerge in the same numbers and in the same way we're used to. I think the biggest chances, and that is for Nepal, probably good news, is to establish niche markets for those people that are really ready to travel. And these are, in my opinion, people who are catering to markets Nepal could be very attractive to. When I see it here in Hawaii, I cannot imagine, even after this crisis is over, that we're going to have the same number of people coming in, that the hotels would all be full. So we all have to be prepared prepared for this, and have to make plans to come over this difficult times. It is, and I think no one really knows exactly where we're heading. But there is, yes, I agree with Richard, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. People love to travel, people will travel. Money will slowly build up. But of course, we have to take in consideration that many businesses also outside the travel and tourism industry will be severely impacted through this crisis. So the money for vacations will not be there. It's not there immediately. It has to build up. And there's a certain clientele that has resources, and they will keep their resources through the crisis. I think we should initially address, and niche markets for Nepal, I think has a very good opportunity here.
Thank you, Thomas. Since, if I recall right, you also observing 2003 SARS and swine flu of 2009. Would you like to share some of the insights? Because there it rebounded from March to October. So as WTTC director or managing director Virginia has said, once the outbreak is under control, it would take up to 10 months for tourism sector to return to normalcy. But now we know the normalcy would not be as mass tourism or in the numbers. So how would you see this in the light of SARS or swine?
I don't know if you can fully prepare it with the SARS situation. The SARS situation was a regional situation, not really a global situation. The bad thing and the good thing is that the entire world is affected by it right now. So we're all going to start from something less than where we were or just a few weeks ago. SARS was a different thing. It affected mostly destinations in Asia, but it didn't really affect that much destinations in Europe and in North America. If you compare crisis overall, I remember way back the tsunami crisis in Southeast Asia. I was actually on one of the recovery panels at the time, and worked a little bit from the PATA office actually. And one of our biggest fear was discounting. And I'm glad you mentioned discounting before. Learning out of the situation in Bali and in Indonesia back in 2005 or 6, I believe it was, going through a crisis, and you were able to get 5-star hotels literally for $5 different a night than you get a 2-star hotels. It forced all the 2 and 3 stars hotels out of business. So I think governments may think about antitrust laws and give the industry the power to actually have certain guidelines. So for instance, price ranges, they're set in the 5-star range, and price ranges that are set for the 3 or 2 or 1-star range to keep everyone afloat and everyone in business. What Thailand also did after the recovery, or during the recovery, I mean, at the tsunami crisis, is instead of discounting hotels, they focused on reintroducing the destinations. So they had massive amount of fam trips. Thai International Airways played along, the hotels played along. They had publicity, and the hotels were still empty, but it gave a lot of assurance that Thailand is ready for business. So these are all little points I think they need to be discussed. for a destination to come back after this crisis.
Thank you. Thank you, Thomas. I have a quick question for Srizana Rana. Now, after this COVID is contained and things get back to normalcy, of course, the hotels will have to take a new measures for safety, hygiene, and also the service side. So the social distancing, what we are now so much used to, would you see that being a negative side or challenging part, because people might not want to be as hospitable as earlier at one side? And secondly, do you see this pandemic resulting the biggest dent to the industry and economy? Will it also discourage the youngsters who are taking up hotel management or tourism management as their career? Would they be apprehensive because tourism was the first hit? So will this create kind of a void in 5 years or 7 years down the line? Because student would definitely think and they might not choose. So will that also create some sort of gap in terms of quality workforce supplies down the line? How do you see this?
I'm going to ask you one question to everybody. We have been locked down, we have been cooped up in a house. Now, what is the next thing that we all are dreaming of? That once, things open, we all want to go for a holiday. So, don't forget that there is a domestic tourism also. Even for Nepalese now to be able to go to different part of Nepal will still be exciting. So, what I feel is patience is what is required. We should not forget the domestic tourism also. People are bound to start getting excited traveling. I mean, of course, we have to look at their pocket and decide the kind of destination that they want to choose. But then holiday is something now has become part of life, Pankaj. It's not something that you get. It is luxury to some point, but at the same time, now I feel it's part of life. So when you sort of get into that mode of life for a certain time, you need to take that break. So be it close by destination or further, that depends, of course, on your budget. But then the concept of holiday will always be there, in my opinion, right? So I don't see that, the younger generation should be discouraged with, this hotel management, hospitality field. I'm sure I would really think that there will always be scope. And I don't think so they're going to give up, especially in a country like ours where, we are blessed with so many products, so many destinations, And then from this meeting, what I feel very happy about is we really got a lot of tools, actually, the tools that it's time for us to come together, because I remember there was a group of our past presidents already talking about the price, being slashed down and spoiling the market. People are already talking about it because we talk with experience, because this is not the first time that we've come through the crisis. This is one of many crises that we've come across. So with all the tools that is given to us in this meeting, I think if we come together, the Nepal Tourism Board, the professionals, the private sector, the government, and if we can really plan things together, I think I don't see any problem. And coming about the distancing, will that affect the tourism, like you said? We just talked about the culture side of Nepal's tourism. And this was always maintained. If you know that handshaking and side of, greeting with, kissing each other was never our culture. It was namaste was our culture. So now, it's like going back to what I remember, 40 years back. I mean, there was this distance we always maintained. When we ate, we kept a distance, we did our namaste. There are so many things that our culture, it was a way of life, So maybe we can review that and see that, go back in times and,
Thank you.
What that there was.
Thank you, Srizana Rana. It's really enlightening. Yes, Namaste has always been our culture. And let me also tell all the participants and panelists that we have exactly 8 minutes to wrap this up. So I have few questions. Probably John would like to take this. This comes from Sukendra Gurbacharya. Okay. What do you want? How should the employees be handled in crisis? What is the general practice in the world in such cases? The employer will not be able to support them where there is no earning. I think this has kind of been replied by Srezana Rana that 1 month. So I don't think this will be. But would you like to shed some light on this?
Well, I think
Ian?
has been sort of the brought up is that, you know, how can the government assist business into keeping people on payroll, at least through this introductory shock? And so there are a lot of different approaches with each different nation, which having to use their resources a certain way. And so Thomas brought up that U.S. People are getting a $1,200 input from the government. So there's a lot of different ways of sort of looking at it. Again, I kind of recommended, especially if you're a small business and you have a kind of a deep well of customers that you've worked with who really appreciate you, you might want to start a GoFundMe account. And so, which is where people can donate, and you could say that money is going to be going to help our employees. In particular, as I mentioned, the value chain of all the people that you contract down the line, the drivers, the Sherpa, the guides, you know, the tea houses. That's a way of kind of reaching out to maybe some of your wealthier customers that maybe they will donate and you can use those funds. So I think a lot of that. And then I also looked at possible mergers, possible maybe asking for, you know, a foreign partner to step in. And maybe that's what your suppliers back in different source markets can say, hey, this is an opportune time to become and start forming partnerships and bringing in sort of new investors. This is a great time over the next 3 or 4 months, get us over the hump, keep our employees there. And I think Srijan also mentioned this is a great time for capacity building as well, to be focused on training, focused on improving your property or improving your service, looking at different types of destinations as well. So I think those are some comments.
Thank you, John. I have one question from Sudan Suvedi, who is a manager from Nepal Tourism Board. What he asked, well, at this time, reaching and communication is the key. We can use online platforms. How industry can come together more strong? Perhaps this would go to Thomas because he's into media communication.
Yes, and this, Pankaj, I think in today's world.
I'll give you a minute.
Oh, sorry. In today's world, yes, today's world, the internet is a wonderful tool through social media, through online media. Everyone is connected to everyone, and there are tools out there that could not just getting an advertising message out, but getting messages out that are proactive, promoting without wanting to promote something. Yes, I think any destination should invest in such capacity to reach the world and change and form the image of a destination and the opportunities a destination gives. I also maybe wanted to add about financing. What is a big thing specifically in North America? Banks and institutions should find a way of giving consumers the opportunity to finance trips to Nepal and anywhere else without interest. And the interest could be the promotion we're giving. Instead of lower hotel prices, hotel could cover the interest for guests to finance and make payments interest-free for a while. I think there are a lot of tools we have to our exposure, and tour operators in the US would probably be wide open to look at these tools. Nepal also directly and indirectly could benefit from. And that again,
Thank you.
of course, is something what the media could circulate easily.
Well, thank you, Thomas. Well, regarding the social media, there's a question. As we all feel that social media is like fire, you can cook a meal or you can burn the entire city, right? So there's a question from Mahendra that is social media helping? Mahendra Raj Paudel Heni, we call him. Is social media helping COVID to be more destructive for tourism industry? Social media is times powerful now than at the time of SARS, swine flu, Ebola in the recent past. So how do we go about this double-edged sword? Perhaps John, would you like to be impromptu 1 minute? You have to mute. Okay,
I got you.
Right.
So yeah, this is very important. And again, I think Nepal is sitting in a very good spot in the sense that you don't have an excessive crisis there. So you are one of the most healthiest countries out there. So that's very positive, and you can start pushing that note. As part of my presentation, I said that you really look at trying to get your adventure influencers there and starting to really create some content for you. So this is a fantastic time to be inviting some of the influencers there, the social media people of your niche markets, and having them start producing really good content of videos and really focusing on, hey, we've got business going now, and we're going to be ready whenever the world is ready to start traveling again.
Thank you, John. Now, the last question before we close comes from Sandeepa Thapa Basnet. She is the Vice President Education of Tourism Toastmaster and Director of Hospitality College in Kathmandu. Her question goes to Srijana Rana. How will Han, Hotel Association of Nepal, create policy in price competition, and also any plans on improving sanitation and hygiene standards in Nepal?
Absolutely, Sandeepa, because I don't know if you're aware, but the government has come up with standardization for all categories of hotels, and it's just come out. So like what I was talking earlier, that if we can start now following that standardization, that includes sanitation, hygiene, garbage management, everything. So I think now the standardization has come after, I think, nearly 5 years. Hotel Association did spend a lot of time with the tourism department. So I think this is the time now we start implementing that. And of course, monitoring is one of the biggest challenge, which I feel like professionals like your institution, we need help to go and make sure that, we work very closely with the government to monitor that. So I think in that case, we will be able to come up to certain standard on hygiene, sanitation, safety, security, food safety, all that will come together.
Thank you, Srijana Rana. So now this comes to the end, but before I close, I would like to thank all the participants, panelists, for a very insightful discussion. Of course, this is not going to change the entire scenario, but it will definitely inject much needed hope. As the saying goes, that in the desperate situation like this, when you cannot change the situation, you change your mindset. And this discussion of an hour has definitely injected that ray of hope, what we needed. And it has been a healer, as John said, healing for people, healing for prosperity, healing for destinations. I think if we juggle around that and be very mindful and do effective communication, as Thomas pointed out, we keep our stakeholders and clients engaged in effective and meaningful communication, I think this cannot last very long. And as Srijana Rana pointed out, that we are just waiting to get out of our home, because holidaying at home has been pretty long. So people's motivation to get out to nature will remain in all thick and thin. So people will travel. So this point of time, we need preparedness. Let's utilize this time for capacity building, keeping our morale high. Yes, there are challenges, but it's going to go. So this is exactly what we are doing to reflect, reinvent, and look forward for the coming season. Because as we know in tourism, there's a lean season and then there's a high season. And when it rains, we take out umbrella, we don't cry over rain. So let's take this forward. And I would like to thank IDI for creating this platform, and Tourism Toastmaster for technical support and as a knowledge partner. We have the Sergeant at Arms of Tourism Toastmaster, Roshan Gimire, working behind the scene, ensuring that all this technical stuff is going well. And I would like to hand over. And then thank you, the participants. We have 35 plus. And thank you for all your questions. And we look forward for next version. And I would like to invite Executive Director of IDI, International Development Institute, thanking him to say his parting words in 1 minute. Over to you, Sumant Sinha.
Thank you, Pankaj, and thank you for moderating this important event. And also thank you for all the participants, and especially for John and Thomas for staying late, especially John keeping up with me. And we're looking forward to a lot more series focusing on tourism and other aspects of tourism, economics of tourism and other things. So look forward to our schedule, our website, and we'll be posting there as well as reaching out to you. Having said that, good night from US, aloha, and namaste to Nepal. Thank you very much, and thank you all the participants for participating in today. Thank you.
Hello.
Like this.
Thank you. Good night and have a good day.
Good night. Thank you.